My name is Carmen Downs. I am the president of the Coalition of 100 Black Women Los Angeles chapter. Before I give some greetings and welcomes, I'd like to first thank you all for attending. I'm going to turn it over to our co-chair of our Public Policy Committee, the fabulous, the dynamic, the rock star, the one who walks on water, the one and only co-chair Twyla Peters. It's all yours.
Well, thank you, Madam President, and good evening to all. Welcome to the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Los Angeles Chapters Public Policy Forum. This is a candidate forum where we are thrilled to have you join us tonight for this important gathering focused on the future of our community. So as we come together for this nonpartisan event, we recognize the vital role that informed voters play in shaping our local government and policy. So tonight, we have distinct honor of hearing from candidates running from key positions. We have the City Council of Inglewood. We have the Los Angeles School Board District 1 seat. We also have the County Superior Court judge seats and the California State Senate seat representatives here to share. Now, all candidates were notified of the forum and extended accommodations to attend. This evening will provide you with an opportunity to learn about the goals and mission of these candidates and how they plan to serve our community. We encourage you to engage with them, ask them questions, and share your thoughts. Your voices are essential in making informed decisions about the future of our city and our state. We are excited to receive official comments from our president, Downs, shortly. But first, I would like to introduce a member of Public Policy Committee, Latanya Nelson, who will go over our housekeeping guidelines to ensure we all have a productive and respectful forum. Sister Nelson.
Thank you, Co-Chair Peters. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're glad to have you join us this evening. We hope that it is informative. We want to give you an opportunity to actually listen to the candidates so that you can make an informed decision once you are at the voting place or when you do your ballots. Tonight, we are letting you know that we are nonpartisan, and this is a nonpartisan event. We will be monitoring the chat, so we ask that you have any questions that you please place them in the chat. We will make sure that the candidates do actually get your questions, that you will also hear the questions. We're asking and looking for each question to be respectful, each question to be within good taste and good reason. And we'll try to do our best to make sure that the candidates are able to actually hear and answer any questions you may have this evening. Also, if you are, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but that's it. Thank you. Have a great evening. Sorry.
You got it. You got it, Sister Nelson. Not a problem. And again, I want to thank everyone for attending. Again, my name is Carmen Downs. I am the president of the Los Angeles chapter of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. And you will hear multiple times this evening emphasizing that we are a nonpartisan organization. And our sole focus is advocacy that supports our community, specifically Black women and girls. So thank you so much for attending this critically important event that's going to inform your voting decision. Before we begin, I must do a shameless plug. We are always looking for a few good women to join our organization. We will plug our website into the chat so that you can visit it to gain more information on potentially joining us. We're also grateful to the support of our community that supports our programming. We are having a fundraiser this Saturday at the California Fish Grill. And we will also plug in information in our chat, and we hope that you will join us and support us. But for tonight, thank you to our Public Policy Committee, specifically our public policy chairs, as well as our candidates. It is always our goal to educate the community so that their decision is informed by hearing candidates and understanding what is at stake and to inform your voting decision. My personal call to action for all that's listening is for you to spread the knowledge about what you will hear from candidates this evening. We have a little less than, we have about 12 days until Election Day. And from the top of the ticket all the way down the ballot is extremely important for us. So tonight continues to be your sprint to Election Day and getting informed for all of the candidates. So I will turn it back over to Co-Chair Peters to introduce our first candidate.
Thank you, Madam President. So in a moment, we will hear from our candidates, each of whom will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. They will share their backgrounds, current positions, and their motivations for seeking the roles that they are seeking. Each candidate will also highlight how they plan to make a difference in our community. We will start with Ms. Leslie Jones, who is running for District 4 on the Inglewood City Council.
Candidate Jones, are you there?
We're in the process of moving her from the waiting room.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Turner. One moment, please. Well, while we're waiting for Ms. Leslie Jones to enter the room, it seems as if, let's see.
There she is.
Looks like we have her. Okay. Hello, Ms. Jones.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good evening to you. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but you will now have the floor. It is your turn to give us 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself. And I'm not certain if you heard the introduction. You can just give us a brief background, your current position, what motivates you to seek the role you're seeking, and how it will make a difference in our community, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Los Angeles for organizing this forum. As you mentioned earlier, my name is Leslie Jones, and I'm running to represent District 4 on the Inglewood City Council. I'm an Inglewood native, born and raised in this city, left to go to college at Arizona State University, where I obtained a bachelor's degree in political science, and I also joined Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Upon returning home to Inglewood, I opened up a business with my sister, and we have operated that business over the last 4 years right here in the heart of Inglewood. I am a local entrepreneur, and I'm also a small business commissioner for the County of Los Angeles. So I know firsthand the challenges of the hardworking people in the city of Inglewood. We are facing rising costs, increased competition, and a lack of support from our current council member. Small businesses are the backbone of our country and also this community, and they deserve more attention, resources, and opportunities to thrive. But it's not just about businesses. Our district is at a crossroads with rising housing costs, increased noise and traffic issues, school closures, and a growing homeless crisis. We deserve leadership in District 4 that is responsive and listens to the concerns of the residents. I'm running for city council because I believe District 4 deserves better. We've had leadership in this district for far too long that have not focused on serving the people. I'm not running for a title. I'm running because I am committed to tackling noise and traffic issues, affordable housing, supporting small businesses, and improving the public safety of this great city. I promise to be independent with my leadership, transparent, and accountable. Thank you so much for putting this forum together and allowing me to speak a little bit about myself.
Ms. Jones, thank you. Thank you for that. So I will follow with a couple of questions.
Sure.
You did mention affordable housing. So I do have a question concerning that. How will you approach the issue of affordable housing to ensure it's accessible to all residents?
Sure. I believe that it's really important that we fight to implement rent controls with all of the growing costs in the city of Inglewood. And it's important that landlords have a cap on how much they can increase rent. Longtime residents are getting priced out of their homes. Property taxes are going up. So we need initiatives that really focus on affordable housing development and gives tax breaks to the people of the city. I will also push for first-time home buyer programs to allow people that have rented in the city for a long time the opportunity to invest in the city.
Great. My next question will be, how do you plan to engage with the residents of Inglewood to ensure that their voices are heard in the decision making?
I think that's a very important question. As a small business owner who has a people-facing business, I have a restaurant. I'm constantly interacting with the people of Inglewood every single day, and that's something that I would carry over into my role as city council. I plan to hold monthly office hours that allow people to come in and speak to me with any concerns that they have. I also plan on hosting forums for people to learn about new developments that are coming to the city, new things that are being presented to the city. So everyone is well aware of what's going on. So there's complete transparency and they're able to help make decisions about the city that they live in.
Great. Well, Ms. Jones, we'd like to thank you for being here this evening and sharing with us. If you'd like, please stay on and we will definitely have some questions for you soon.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And are there any questions in the chat for Ms. Leslie Jones?
At this time, I don't see any. So I'm sorry that there aren't any at this time.
Okay. And that's fine. We will have a question and answer series at the end of the forum as well.
Great. I'll stick around. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So next, we will transition to the candidates for the Los Angeles County Superior Court judge positions. First, we will have Mr. George A. Turner Jr., who's running for seat number 39. Mr. Turner. Well, while we're waiting on Mr. Turner to join us, I would like to also mention that we understand that we are limited in what we can ask judges. So we are quite familiar with Canon 7, and we have reviewed the questions, and we believe that it's appropriate to ask the questions we will be asking to judicial candidates to answer for this presentation as well, okay? Mr. Turner, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is George Turner. I am candidate for Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge, seat number 39. A little bit about me. Born and raised in the city of Inglewood. I went to public school my entire life, graduated from Morningside High School, valedictorian, went on to UCLA where I graduated Phi Beta Kappa and summa cum laude. Went on to UCLA Law School where I concentrated in critical race studies. I have been a public defender for the last 15 years, and I am currently the deputy in charge of the homeless mobile unit, where our specific edict is to help our unhoused neighbors get their records clear so that they can have access to better housing and better jobs. I decided to run for Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge because I grew up in the middle of this thing that we call mass incarceration. And what that means to me is that over the last half century, the state of California has built 23 prisons and only one college. And I have been fighting for members of my community to stay out of those prisons. Over the last 5 or 6 years, though, thanks to some of the people in this room, they've fought to sort of change the law to sort of bring the end to to mass incarceration. And I believe that as a bench officer, I want to apply the law as it currently stands so that we can start working toward things like alternatives to incarceration so that we can have a more full and just restorative justice system. And I am a father of three, a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, father, husband, active community member. And I believe that judges ought to be accountable to the communities in which they preside and they serve, which is why I'm here. I want to be held accountable, and I want folks to know me, and I want to be accessible.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Turner. So you spoke on accountability. I'd like to ask you this question. If you became aware of unethical conduct on part of a trial advocate in a case in which you were presiding, how would you handle it? Do you believe judges should be required to report attorney misconduct?
I think that it is very clear that judges are required um, to report uh, attorney misconduct. I think that it is actually very clear in the canons that if there is misconduct in the courtroom, particularly things that pertain to sort of perjury or things where it can have a negative impact on one's client, or that it's outside the bounds of what the law is, that judges are required to report that.
Thank you. As a prospective judge, what do you consider your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
My greatest strength is my deep curiosity. I am a nerd by trade. I tell folks that all the time. I'm someone who loves to learn things. I love to find out new information. I love to meet people, and I'm very passionate about that particular aspect of life, period. I'm a lifelong learner. And so I think that will help me no matter what courtroom I'm in, whether I'm doing criminal cases or whether or not I'm doing civil cases. My desire to
Mhm.
learn things is going to be, a huge deciding factor. My biggest weakness, and it's kind of I tell folks that I have a couple of weaknesses that some people might not consider weaknesses, but they can be exploited. One of them is that I am extremely loyal. I'm the sort of person where, if I have a friend or a colleague, I'm going to work with them and support them no matter what, and that has been used to be exploited in the past. And I am someone who likes to finish things. So I'm the sort of person where once I start a task, I am going to finish that task. And that is also something that can be sort of exploited. They're like, yeah, give George the hard stuff because we know that it's going to get done. So those are, I guess, two sort of weaknesses that I would that were two things that I consider strengths, but can be exploited.
Understandable, understandable. My next question to you is, what are your views on whether the court as a whole deals effectively with racial and gender bias? What are your views on whether the court as a whole deals effectively with racial um, gender biases?
I mean, well, if you look at the court and our profession of law, period, there are huge gaps when it comes, specifically when it comes to race and to gender. If you look at the bench specifically, something like 78% of the judges in Los Angeles County are male. Many of them are white males. Many of them come from prosecutorial backgrounds. If you look at many of the defendants in criminal courts, they are African American men and Latino men. So there's this huge sort of disparity. Oh, and then we're not even going to talk about lawyers. We're talking about less than 5% of the population of the legal population nationwide are African American. So if you look at the profession overall, and the way the courts work, there is a lot of inequality when it comes to gender and race. Now, whether or not the court deals with them effectively, I think that there is a problem, because in many cases the court doesn't address those issues at all. You know, it's the whole idea that we are going to assume that everything is objective and fair and not work specifically to address specific problems. Um, and so, I think that there's a lot more work to be done on that particular issue.
Okay. And my last question to you, what are the major issues involved in the debate regarding gun control?
So there are a few issues with regard to gun control. One of them is the question of the extent that the Second Amendment ought to have on um, everyday laws, whether they be state or local. But I think overall the major issue is, how do we address um, violence on the street every day? And we also understand, with a clear understanding that that guns are used too often and are very, very dangerous and have a huge impact. So you balance that against the rights that the Second Amendment affords many people, or affords United States citizens. Um, but I think that another major issue that we have to really consider is just how we address violence, period. I think that there are, as I said in my opening, alternatives to incarceration. I think that we have, in particularly Los Angeles County, which is one of the major jailers in the world. We've done a lot of work toward sort of thinking that we could cage our way out of a problem or put people in custody, and that's going to fix the problem. I think that if putting people in cages was going to make us safer, we'd be the safest place in the world because we tried it. So I think that now it's time to start thinking about ways in which we can have community-based solutions to issues of crime in general, but also issues associated with gun violence and gun use.
Well, thank you, Mr. Turner. We appreciate your input. We'd like you to remain on if you can. We will have questions and answers at the end.
Thank you. I'm here.
Awesome.
At this time. So thank you, Mr. Town.
Great. Okay. So next we will have Miss Erica Wiley. Miss Erica Wiley is running for seat number 48. Miss Wiley, the floor is yours. We're just working on getting her in the room.
She should be. I just saw she was admitted, so. I think she's in the main room.
I'm here if you can hear me.
I hear you. Hello, Miss Wiley. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great, great. Well, you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Give us a brief background, your current position, and what motivates you to run for the role that you're running for.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to this dynamic group this evening. My name is Erica Wiley, and I am a candidate for Superior Court, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge, seat number 48. A little bit about me. I'm from the Los Angeles area, raised here in Los Angeles by a single mother in South Central Los Angeles. I've been a deputy public defender for the last 25 years in two counties, rural Merced County for a short period of time, and LA County the most of that time since the year 2000. Um, I've handled thousands of criminal cases, from minor misdemeanors to capital murder, where individuals are looking at the death penalty, potentially, or life without the possibility of parole. I've also worked as a supervisor in my office, and again, just handled quite a few cases, giving me the experience that I believe puts me in the position to be ready to join the bench. This is not something I would have thought about years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, when laws like the three strikes law were in effect. And in my opinion, handcuffed judges who wanted to give people the opportunity to change their lives. But the law said no, if you had a certain past, no matter what new crime you had committed, if it was a felony, you were going to prison for 25 years to life. But the law has changed. The thinking of our voters have changed. There's more representation by Black women on the bench, and I feel like now is my time to expand the good work that I've been doing on behalf of individuals to the bench. So that's a little bit about me. As far as my education, I attended Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, as my undergrad, and graduated from law school from the University of Cincinnati College of Law.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. So we'll go right into our questions.
Sure.
Our first question would be, if you became aware of an unethical conduct on the part of a trial advocate in a case in which you are presiding, how would you handle it? And do you believe judges should be required to report attorney misconduct?
I think it would depend on what the misconduct was. If it was something that certainly impacted a defendant in a case, which disrupted the ability of that defendant perhaps to get a fair trial, then definitely it would be something that I would address in a public forum. And I mean, directing first my inquiry to the lawyer that was involved and indicating to them that I absolutely do feel that it's my obligation as a bench officer to report that misconduct to the Bar Association, or at the very least, their supervisor. But again, it would depend on what the violation was. If we're talking about an ethical violation on the level of um, rudeness or inappropriate conduct that didn't impact the outcome of the case, I think that I would deal with the lawyer directly and advise them that certainly in my court that behavior was not acceptable.
Thank you for that response. The next question is, as a prospective judge, what do you consider your greatest strengths and your greatest weaknesses?
Oh, wow. I haven't been asked the weakness question yet, so I'll save that one for last. But certainly, I think that my greatest strength is my life experience, coupled with the great amount of knowledge that I've learned about our law, about California law. Like I said, I've been doing this for 25 years. Most of my cases now are some on the highest level, people charged with very serious crimes, murder, abuses toward children. So I'm very well aware of what California law is. But I think coupled with my background and understanding what the law is my life experience. I was, again, raised in South Central Los Angeles by a single mother. And so she was someone who instilled in me the um, desire to expand my education. She was an educated woman, as well as show up as a person who is an asset to my community. I believe that the work of a bench officer is public service work, and so that the work that I've been doing on behalf of individuals should continue as a bench officer. I believe my greatest strength is my commitment to public service, and the desire to do good in people's lives, regardless of what position that I have. Um, my greatest weakness um, might be dealing with um, the secondary trauma that comes from handling cases that are so serious. Sometimes I take that work home. I was blessed to become a mom at the age of 53, so I've got a young child and a lot of family obligations, and I know how the weight of secondary trauma can weigh on you and your daily interactions with people. So I try to leave work at work, but sometimes that's hard when you've got murder cases and cases involving the abuse of children, and you want to do good for your client, but there are struggles there.
Great response. Great response. My next question and last question to you will be, what are your views on whether the court as a whole deals effectively with racial and gender bias?
I've said before that I believe that the LA County Superior Court system is a microcosm of what takes place in the larger community. And certainly the existence of bias in our society impacts the court. Um, I think that there are, bench officers who all call, sort of being from the old guard, who have, racial opinions about the propensities of Black and brown people to involve themselves in crimes at higher levels, without understanding the underlying causes of the systemic issues which bring people into the criminal justice system. I think that our courts have done better. I've seen them do better in educating judges, having trainings on systemic bias, having trainings on the need to expand the diversity on the bench. And so while changes have been made, certainly changes need to continue to be made, and we're not there yet.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. We will like for you to please stay on. We will have questions and answers at the end of the session.
Thank you so much for listening to me this evening. I've enjoyed our talk.
Thank you for being here. Okay. Next, we will have a video recording from Renee Rose, who's running for Superior Judge Seat 48.
My name is Renee Rose, and I'm running for Superior Court Judge, Office 48. I've been a prosecutor for the last 33 years, and during that time, I've worked in the hardcore gang unit. I was the meth lab prosecutor while in the Major Narcotics Division. I was one of 2 specially assigned DAs to the Arson and Explosives Unit, and for the last 7.5 years, I've run the Elder and Dependent Adult Abuse Unit. As the deputy in charge, I supervise specially trained staff that prosecutes physical, emotional, and financial crimes against senior victims and developmentally or physically disabled adults. But one of the best parts of my job is giving presentations at senior centers about what elder abuse looks like, feels like, how to report it, and how not to fall victim to the latest financial scams. Here's why I'm running for judge. My entire career has been about one thing: following the law to achieve justice. That means justice for victims. It means recognizing that when holding people accountable, justice does not always include jail time. It means a commitment that I have always had to the equal and fair administration of justice. I'm running for judge because I believe in serving my community. I have the right experience, work ethic, compassion, and temperament that's needed to be an effective judge. When elected, I will make the best reasoned decisions I can based on the law. I will treat everyone the way I have always wanted to be treated, fairly and respectfully. I have the most litigation experience in courtrooms throughout 2 counties, and I am the only candidate in my race to be rated well qualified by the LA County Bar Association. I am proud to have recently received the endorsement of the Metropolitan News Service, 50 current and former LA County Superior Court judges, LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger, Teamsters, defense attorneys, and I would be honored to receive your vote in November. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to address you.
Unfortunately, Ms. Rose was unable to attend, but we do thank her for sending in the video just to enlighten us on her position for her seat. Next, we will show another video from our judge's seat. This will be seat number 39, Steve Napolitano.
Hi everybody, Steve Napolitano here, candidate for judge for seat number 39 in the LA County Superior Court. I want to thank the National Coalition of 100 Black Women for inviting me to participate tonight. Unfortunately, I just heard about this event a couple days ago, and so I have a conflict. I have to be somewhere else tonight, so I really appreciate you listening and considering me through this video here. And I know what you're thinking, why should I care about judges? What does that have to do with me? And the truth is, if we've learned anything the last couple of years, is that judges matter. Judges make a difference, okay? And I've worked to make a difference my entire life here in LA County. I'm a nearly 25-year attorney. I'm a state-appointed attorney for inmates before the Board of Parole, which has given me insight into the causes of crime and how to turn people away from it. So I work with them to get them second chances. Rehabilitation is real and something I very much believe in. And so I work with them to make that happen. And I'm also an administrative law judge and hearing officer for cities and counties throughout the state. When someone breaks a rule in the city and they get a citation for it, if they appeal that citation, they come before me. And I've ruled on everything. I've taken evidence, weighed testimony on everything from a $250 citation to citations that are for more than $1.5 million. So I'm not just an advocate. I know that folks, a lot of people running for judge are either prosecutor or public defenders. I'm more than that. I am a attorney, but I'm also an administrative law judge, hearing officer, so I'm a decision maker. I'm not just an advocate for one side or the other. I weigh the evidence now. I come up with a decision based on applying the law to the facts of the case. And I do that in my role as a city council member as well. I'm a 5-term city council member, 6-term mayor for the city of Manhattan Beach, working to improve the lives. They're working to address issues of crime, issues of homelessness, issues of housing. And I did that also as 12 years as senior deputy to LA County Supervisor Don Kanabe, working across LA County and all our communities to help keep people safe, to address their needs, to work with them to solve problems. And that's what I do. I'm a problem solver. I've got this diverse experience that brings the law and public policy together, and that's why I'm endorsed by the LA Times, by La Opinion, by more than 75 local elected officials across the county, including our safety officials as well, the Sheriff's Association, the District Attorney's Association, and so many more. So I appreciate their endorsement. I would appreciate your support and your consideration. Again, Steve Napolitano, running for LA County Superior Court, seat number 39, running for judge. If you want to know more about me, there's a whole lot more. You can go to my website, stevenapolitano.com. Again, that's stevenapolitano.com. And again, I really appreciate you listening, paying attention tonight, and for your consideration. I wish you a blessed evening. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Natalapano. We really appreciate you. Next, we have Georgia, who I don't want to slaughter your name, Georgia Hureta. She's running for seat number 135. Okay, well, it looks like we do not have that candidate online at this time. Are there any chat questions?
Nope, I don't see any. I've been checking. We don't have any at this time.
Okay, well, if we can have all the judges
Oh, I
back,
have one. I do have one for the judges. You bringing them back? Okay, I have a
that's
question for
fine.
the judges. Okay,
Okay,
I have two now. Let me know when they're back.
okay.
So
Here
judge,
now.
okay, you all are here. So I'll go with you, Mr. Turner, and then I'll yield to you, Ms. Wiley. The question is for the judges. What is your position on resentencing? Again, what is your position on resentencing?
Did,
So I guess
did you
I'll
want George to go first? Okay.
Yes,
so I
ma'am.
guess I'll I guess I'll start. So my position on resentencing. So I am actually the head of a small unit that actually works on sort of post-conviction matters. Um, I think that with regard to criminal record clearing, what must be clear is that with regard to at least expungements and sealings, that the only thing that when a record is cleared or when an expungement is granted, that doesn't prevent a bench officer from considering prior convictions when they're doing a new sentencing. If they pick up a new case, it's literally just helpful for situations in which people are looking for jobs and looking for better housing. So I'm very passionate about sort of the expungement record clearing portion of sentencing. Now, with regard to actually resentencing of cases, I think that one of the things that's really popular in the news now is the Menendez brothers and considerations of resentencing on them. I cannot have any sort of specific considerations on specific cases. I'm sort of barred by that as a candidate. However, I will say that we went through an era of like I said before, we went through an era of mass incarceration where there were people who were grossly overcharged for a variety of different things. You know, I had a client just yesterday who was telling me that he did 35 years to life starting in the late 90s, or I'm sorry, in the early 90s, and he was convicted of three robberies. There were no guns involved. All of the money that was taken was immediately given back, and he was someone who literally lost 35 years of his life. He was literally someone who lost 35 years of his life for what were really, frankly, amounts to a petty theft or a series of petty thefts. Now, with regard to sort of more serious charges, people who were convicted of murders, people who have family, who basically took someone's life, I think that's something that we need to be a lot more specific and considerate about. I think that considering um, what's best for the community and also considering all of the sort of modern factors we know about mental health um, and other sort of factors that can contribute that might have contributed to violence
15
are
seconds
things.
left, Mr. Turner. 15 seconds.
All right, all of those are sort of considerations that we ought to have. So, you know, I won't opine about any specific case, but I think that we need to consider a variety of factors if we're
Okay,
talking about resentencing.
and that's your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Wiley, you have the same question, and I'll reread it. What is your position on resentencing? And the time is 2 minutes.
Thank you. I definitely support resentencing as a general tenet. I think that the change in the law, which allows judges, change recently in the law in the last couple of years, which allows judges to look at cases where people have been serving a lot of time and may have been sentenced to life in those cases, is a good law because, as George talked about, for years we were engaging in the mass incarceration of people and sentencing people to long sentences for minor crimes. Many of the people who are being resentenced today are people who um, ran afoul of the three strikes law, the law that said at any point in your life, if you'd committed two violent felonies in your past, that any new felony could result in you being sent to prison for the rest of your life. And so if you were a young man in your 30s who committed a crime at the age of 16 that could be considered a strike, that was a strike for the rest of your life because you were 16 years old. And if that happened again when you were 20 years old, um, then you now had two strikes. And now in your 30s, you have cleaned up your life, but maybe you're suffering from a drug addiction and you commit any new felony. A new felony could be a theft from a local retail store, because as a person with a history of theft at that time, any new small felony could be something that would send you to prison for the rest of your life. So resentencing addresses those people, addresses their cases, and makes right what was wrong at that time, throwing away the lives of people who had the ability to rehabilitate themselves and change the lives of people who consideration was not given at the time of their sentence for the underlying causes of what brought them into the system. So I definitely support that. I think that it needs to be engaged in with care and caution. How has this person performed while in prison? Have they engaged in training? Have they gotten their college degree? Have they stayed away from the violence in that facility?
And not
Do
to
they have
cut you
families?
off, but that is your time.
Thank you.
So thank you. We're going to stay right here with you to give you one other question, and then we'll go back to Mr. Turner also, and it's 2 minutes. Again, what factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants? Again, what factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants?
Can I go first?
Yes, I'm gonna stay here
Okay.
with you. Yeah,
Okay.
you have 2 minutes.
Um, Definitely public safety is paramount. If someone's charged with a crime that has involved the loss of life or the threat of loss of life of innocent community members, public safety is paramount in considering whether that person should be released while their case is pending. But that takes into account a lot of factors. What were the underlying issues involved in the case? Can that person be, was it situational? Was it something that was brought on by mental illness or a drug addiction? Um, we want to look at whether that person can be separated from the people who were the victims in the case safely. If the victims are persons who live in their house, perhaps there's a need for a restraining order to be put in place. Are there, certainly I would consider whether there were lesser alternatives to incarceration, perhaps an ankle bracelet, which monitored this person in the community so that they could be safe while their case was pending. I certainly think that it's important that we not use cash bail and the inability to simply get the money together as a basis for determining whether or not someone should be free, but a holistic view of who that person is and the crime that's been committed and whether they can be safe in the community while the case is pending, and whether we as community members can be safe at the same time allowing that person to go on with their life while they fight a case which has not been proved against them at that point, are the kinds of considerations that I would employ as a bench officer.
Thank you. And then we'll go to Mr. Turner and the same question. What factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants? And you have 2 minutes.
I'm going to echo many of the things that Erica said. I think that the law is very clear on what factors you have to consider. And those factors are public safety and likelihood of returning to the community. I think that any sort of discussion about cash bail is sort of problematic. I don't see the connection or the nexus between having the ability to pay money and keeping the community safe necessarily. Um, I think I think that I think that we need to really be um, creative and community based in analyzing ways in which We're going to have people who are accused and not convicted of any crimes in the community. There are a variety of different options, particularly when you consider, like I said, many of the changes in the law around diversion and community-based programming to address certain needs. I think that those are all effective measures, or have been proven or demonstrated evidence-based to be sort of effective measures. And as has been stated before, I believe that if in the very limited situation in which someone is a substantive danger to the community, then it does make sense for them not to be in the community. But those are few and far between when considering all of the sort of factors that go into whether or not someone should be sitting in custody while their case is pending.
Okay, thank you. This is the last question from the chat, and we're going to stay here with you, Mr. Turner. The question is, are there any initiatives you support to divert youth from criminal justice system, and how effective have they been in reducing recidivism?
So there are a variety of different diversion programs for not just youth, but for all manner of people who are from vulnerable communities, whether they be mental health diversion, veterans diversion, and a variety of other sort of diversion options. Now, I will say this about effectiveness. Um, the experience that I've had in my cases and with my clients is that the overwhelming majority of them come before the court with situations or circumstances that lead them into the decisions that they make. Some of them might be drugs, some of them might be mental health, some of them might be abject poverty, some of them, in the case of children, is abuse and neglect. And until we address those issues, and those issues can be addressed in diversion, and until we address until we address those issues, they're going to pop back up. And the evidence is very clear, and the statistics are very clear about the sort of negative impact that bringing children or youth into a court has. Once someone comes before a court, they tend to come back to a court. But if you can keep them out of courts, then they won't come back and commit new offenses. So, whether it be mentoring programs, whether it be access to different resources in the community, whether it be tutoring programs for school, whether it be job training or job placement, all of those are sort of effective ways to make sure that particularly young people stay out of custody and stay out of court.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Turner. Was there another question? I'm sorry.
Wiley has the same. She will have hers at this
Okay.
time. And it's the same question. Are there any initiatives you support to divert youth from the criminal justice system, and how effective have they been in reducing recidivism? And this is the last question. And you have 2 minutes, Ms. Wiley. Thank you.
So this is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. I definitely believe that it should be our goal to keep kids out of the criminal justice system, because, like George says, once they start in that system, it's very hard to get out of it. There are initiatives that are built into the law. Actually, 725, from what I recall when I did my stint in juvenile many years ago, was something that allowed kids who had run afoul of the law to come in and have a probation officer and a defense attorney and a judge make a decision about what's lacking in that child's life. Things that George mentioned, like abuse and neglect, proper parental supervision, whether the child was dealing with any deficiencies in their ability to learn. All of these things were employed with an ultimate goal of the dismissal of the charge against that young person after there had been about a year or maybe sometimes two, in addressing the underlying causes of what brought that child into the system. So I definitely supported that and advocated for those things on behalf of my juvenile clients. And then outside of the court system, I've worked as a person who've worked in our LA County Parks After Dark program, where we would go in and talk to kids in our community about their rights, how to stay out of trouble, the fact that educating on the fact that most kids get in trouble in connection with their association with other children, and more importantly, how to have safe interactions with police and avoid interactions with police. So again, it's very near and dear to my heart, and I support the initiatives and have used them to create good outcomes for my juvenile clients.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Bria, Monique, and Rashawn, thank you for those questions. And I specifically am near and dear to that last question, retiring from the probation department. So I do understand how you all feel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chair Peters?
Yes, okay. I'd actually would like to, if it's okay, open the floor. I see that one of our candidates have returned. Ms. Georgia Herrera, is she available?
Still in the main room right now.
Okay.
I see Laura Richardson is here.
Then that's where we're going. We will now bring on our candidates for the California State Senate District 35. We have here with us today Miss Laura Richardson. Miss Laura Richardson, how are you?
Yes,
Will
I
you
am doing
please-
well. I'm sitting outside of our campaign office, so I'm excited. We got people on the phones calling, and we're doing the work to win. Thank you for having me.
Oh, awesome. I am so happy you were able to join us.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could please just give us a brief introduction within 2 minutes, please. Just why you're running, your position at this time, and what do you plan to do for our community?
Well, a brief introduction is I'm the only candidate running in this race that's actually from the 35th district. I was born and raised. I've lived here the entire time. I've gone to school, and the reason why I'm running is I've been blessed with the skills to be able to help our community. That's what we need. We need to give back. We need people who are capable to do the work. I'm the only person in this race who was a staffer on the local, state, and federal level, working for the vice mayor, for the lieutenant governor, and for a member of Congress. I'm the only person running in this race who's actually been a candidate, has been elected on the local, state, and federal level. So I was on the city council, state assembly, and in Congress. And I'm the only person running in this race that's written legislation on all 3 levels and had them signed by both Republican and Democrat governors and presidents. So I'm running because our community, we have needs, we have programs and resources that we could definitely utilize. And I'm the person who works to get our fair share. And I've always been successful with that. So I'm looking forward to representing the community. I have many, many endorsements, but a few to highlight: Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Mayor Karen Bass, and the local mayors in the community in Carson and in Compton, and the majority of the city council. So I'm ready to do the job, and more importantly, capable to do it. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for that great introduction. Well, we'll get right into
Yes,
our
ma'am.
questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
My first question for you is, what are the 2 top issues facing District 35, and how do you plan to address them if elected?
So the 2 most important issues I would say that I hear people talk about is, 1, protecting existing jobs that we have and dealing with this economy. You know, everything's gone up from gas to groceries to bread, and we're not getting salary increases at the same level as everything has gone up. So we need people who are going to hold people accountable and make sure that people have an opportunity to live and take care of their families. That leads to the next point: affordable housing. In our community, in our state, the average home, is almost $1 million. And most people, especially young families, can't afford that. So I'm looking forward to working on financing options, such as extending mortgage periods, having lesser amounts that are required in terms of down payments, and a housing trust fund to assist people to be able to afford housing. And lastly, I would say, frankly, public safety. Everywhere that I go, people are concerned of the smash and grabs and the street takeovers. And so we need to make sure that our young people have positive things to do. And the best positive thing is a job. So I'm looking forward to helping them to be able to have those jobs and be successful as we've been blessed to do.
Great. Next question. How do you plan to engage with and listen to the diverse communities within District 35 to ensure their voices are heard in the legislative process?
Well, I was one of the first elected officials to actually open up a satellite office in every city that I represented. And I plan on doing that again. It's really important to make people to have easy access, for them to be able to get to the office, to hear the programs and services, and to have staff to be able to assist them. In terms of diversity, I've always had a staff that represented the community, people who speak Spanish, Khmer, which is the language that Cambodians speak. So I'm a firm believer in making sure that representation does matter. And we have people who not only speak the language, but who also understand what the people are going through and have a spirit to want to help. So that's what I would do to engage them. It's also important, obviously, to be active in all the groups. In the last couple months since the primary, I visited all the neighborhood councils in this district, which was quite a feat. And so it's not just the meetings I have, it's the meetings the community has and being present. Finally, how I plan on helping the community is I've always been a strong proponent of casework and had all staff members handle casework. That's the biggest thing we can do as elected officials is help people resolve Social Security, disability, EDD, DMV, any government state entity. We have the ability to advocate on their behalf, and that makes a huge difference to the residents.
Awesome. Awesome. I do have one other question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about affordable housing. You've already covered that. So let's go into healthcare access. What strategies will you implement to ensure access to affordable healthcare for all residents in your district?
Well, let me start off by saying that I'm the only candidate that's actually voted on the Affordable Care Act. In fact, I was in Congress when we brought it forward. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, one, I'm the actual strongest person well informed about many of the healthcare opportunities that we achieved with the Affordable Care Act and some of the things that are on the table that need to be done. Let me give you a brief example. My mom is 86, and 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with esophagus cancer. Do you know that when a person has esophagus cancer, they disconnect the stomach from the esophagus? So they have to be on a feeding tube until it's healed. As long as a person's in the hospital or a rehab center, their food is included. If you go home, you have to pay for it yourself. There are so many things just like that example that make no sense. Here, we're saving the state money, saving healthcare money by having people comfortably at home, and yet you're making them pay for that food and that service. It makes no sense. So I look forward to working with patients, with doctors, with nurses, physicians, with pharmacists. There are so many areas where we can work to improve the delivery of healthcare service. And since that was the last question, don't forget, I need your support. Laura Richardson. My website is www.laura4senate.com. I'm the only person that's got an office open. We're hustling, working, and I look forward to serving all of you. Thank you. Please tell a friend.
Thank you so much for presenting tonight. We truly appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Good night.
I have a question for District
Yes.
35. Did we have another candidate coming for 35? I have a question for 35.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Is it appropriate to do it now, Chair Peters? I can't hear you.
Yes, go ahead. We can go ahead and ask her.
Okay, since I have a question for District 35 candidates. How do you feel about reparations? What will you do to take the mantle from Senator Bradford and get the reparations bill passed? And you have 2 minutes to respond.
Yes. So thank you. I'm so glad you asked that question. Both State Senator Bradford and the California Legislative Black Caucus have met and identified many of the areas that need to be done, which I support all of them and then some. The examples I gave you about housing is an example of one of them. The governor is saying we have a deficit and he can't fund reparations. That's bull and that's not correct. The example I gave you of housing, do you know if a person is a doctor, they can get a 95% loan and only have to put 5% down? Why can't we allow people of African American descent to only have to put 5% down instead of 10, 15, and 20%? Why can't we have people where of African American descent, we can do 35 and 40-year mortgages? There are a lot of things that we can do that can be within the budget and stop the excuses and the years of why we have not received, frankly, the benefits and the results of the hard work of our ancestors. Yes, you can count on me continuing the fight with reparations, but it's more than the fight. It's more than the studies. It's what are the policies that you can get passed. And that's what I'm best at doing. Thank you very much for the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I have a question for Leslie Jones. Do we want to wait till the end or we want to, while we transition and have her answer that? I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Good luck with your candidacy.
Thank you.
Is Leslie Jones still in the room?
I see her.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Hey, Ms. Jones, Sir Jones, I don't know which one to say. Question for Leslie Jones. What are your plans for community meetings with respect to the time that they will start? And the second part is, what are your thoughts on, okay, that's the first question. I'm sorry. What are your plans for community meetings with respect to the time that they will start?
Yeah, I believe that meetings, city council meetings, even the meetings that I plan to hold need to be at a time that's accessible to most of the residents in the city of Inglewood. So afternoon meetings are not extremely accessible for people that go to work every single day. So my meetings that I would host would definitely be in the evening so that as many people as possible are able to attend.
Question is, what are your thoughts on homeowners paying for parking permits in front of their own homes? I guess that's for the city of Inglewood, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that property taxes in the city have gone up year after year after year. And so I think, having to pay for parking in front of your own home is a little bit ridiculous to me. And I think that, like I said earlier, talking about affordable housing, we need to make provisions for the people that live in this city. Even with all of the developments that are coming into this space, the priority should be the residents of District 4 and the city of Inglewood.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I see at this time in the chat. Thank you, Chair Peters. Thank you, Candidate Jones.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now go to our California State Senate. I'm so sorry. Our California State Senate candidate, Michelle Chambers, here for also District 35. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, hello, National Coalition of 100 Black Women. Thank you for having me this evening.
Well, we are definitely happy to have you. As with our other candidate, we will ask you to give us 2 minutes of introduction, please.
All right. Well, I am Michelle Chambers, and I am your next senator for California State Senate District 35. This district is currently represented by Senator Steve Bradford, who has endorsed me to succeed him. I come with over 32 years of public service experience. I've served in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, in Congress under Congresswoman Janice Hahn and Diane Watson. I've served in the State Assembly for multiple years, and then I became the councilwoman of the great city of Compton, in which I reside. And then I became the special assistant to our LA County Assessor, Jeff Prang. And lastly, I was External Affairs Manager for California Department of Justice. I am endorsed by not only the California Democratic Party, the only candidate endorsed by the Democratic Party, but SEIU, AFSCME, California Black Caucus, LA Times, LA Sentinel, Black Women for Wellness, Planned Parenthood, Holly Mitchell, all the senators, um, supervisors, Black Women's Collective, the Black Caucus, and so many other organizations that we trust, our teachers, our nurses, and many others who also feel that I am the best candidate to represent California State Senate District 35. Throughout my entire career, I've represented our vulnerable communities. I've always been the advocate to address and look forward to addressing our homeless crisis, those suffering with mental health and substance abuse. Definitely addressing livable wages. The cost in California, as we see, is increasing annually, and between childcare, utilities, housing, it is just becoming almost unbearable for our everyday working families to even remain afloat, to subside. And so I look forward to working alongside you all, working alongside my colleagues in the state Senate on making a better California for not just the 35th district, but for everyone. And unfortunately, this race has become one of the ugliest because I am the candidate who's supported by all of you who look at what we need to make California better: our working families, our laborers, our unions, our teachers, and our nurses, and so forth. And again, like I stated, the Democratic Party. Unfortunately, my opponent, who is funded by those who are funding Trump, oil, tobacco, big pharma. I too will protect jobs in California. Look forward to it, have done it as a council member, have worked with our hospitals on protecting, looking at African American mortality rates, worked with doulas, and look for those issues that always spearheaded our challenges and our inequities in our communities. So be very clear. We should not have to throw mud and someone's going back 30 years about me stabbing someone, which did not happen, making up AI attachments. That's because when someone has to do that, they don't have a platform of their own. So I want to apologize to you all who have been inundated with the mistruths, because I am your next state senator, and I have look forward to serving you all with integrity. And I look forward to leading you with honesty and transparency. Again, as you seen, my opponent talked about some 30-year. I was 19 years old and had an altercation with them, and she even made a statement that said Michelle Chambers did not stab me. She said that to the Times, to the Sentinel. Although my opponent, who misappropriated funds, and I use that loosely, for our own personal gain just 12 years ago at the grown age of 60. So again, I ask that you use discernment and join those others in endorsing and supporting Michelle Chambers for California State Senate. And I look forward to working alongside you, because any policies and procedures that I put forth, I will make sure our national coalition of 100 Black women has a seat at that table and helping me pass policies. Thank you again for having me. And again, I apologize for the ugliness that this has had to get into, specifically between two Black women, but I also have a right to inform you of the truth.
Thank you, candidate Michelle. We do have one question for you from the chat. How do
Yes.
you feel about reparations? What would you do to take the mantle from Senator Bradford and get the reparations bills passed?
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly support reparations.
And you have 2 minutes. Let me give you that caveat. You got two
Okay.
minutes. Thank you.
I was External Affairs Manager for California Department of Justice. And as we know, Attorney General Rob Bonta led the task force on appropriations, and I worked alongside him on creating that task force and doing that background research, if you can, to create the entire gamut of reparations. I look forward to working alongside. I am endorsed by the California Black Caucus, and I look forward to picking that up as soon as I get into Sacramento on getting those to the governor's desk and signed. We also want to look at what reparations looks like, repairing us, making us whole. And I'm looking at it not only monetarily, but education, housing. We still have our brothers and sisters incarcerated serving time for marijuana offenses. So when we talk about reparations, I'm going to look at repairing my entire community. I'm talking about repairing us on every level. And I look forward to working alongside you all as well on helping me pass that legislation, getting your ideas, your suggestions, but not only that, working alongside the Black Caucus, coalition building, galvanizing with signatures, and just standing behind us to get this signed by the governor for sure.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. I think that concludes.
Welcome.
Thank you. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Chair Peters, you're on mute.
My apologies. Can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear me now?
now we can.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Chambers. You've answered basically every question I was going to ask you. So we're going to move on to Miss Georgia. She's back. I'd like for her to please come on and enlighten us. Miss Georgia Hureta, seat number 135, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge seat.
Okay, maybe I'm trying to find her in the chat. I mean,
Well,
Miss
actually, while
Georgia
we're
is
waiting
not
for
in
her,
she's not in the room.
she's not
Charlotte
in the
is here.
room.
Is it possible
Charlotte
to let
Oh,
Liddell is here.
Charlotte go
okay.
on?
yeah,
Thank
we
you.
got that. We got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move forward to our candidate for the school board district number 1, and that is Miss Charlotte Hindi Newbill. Welcome.
Welcome and thank you for having me. I appreciate it being here tonight.
Oh, thank you for being here. We would like to allot you 2 minutes for a brief introduction.
Well, let me let you know, and I appreciate you saying my name right. Charlotte
Did
Hindy.
I? Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're good. I'm normally letting folks know it's new bill like a new dollar bill. So
I love it.
I am born and raised here in Los Angeles in the heart of BD1 to immigrant parents who believed in education, and I believed it too, and a product of LAUSD. Went to 24th Street School Elementary and graduated from Dorsey High School. Went off to Xavier University. I returned with an opportunity to come back to Dorsey High School, where I started my coaching career there, as well as teaching, and wore many different hats. I was a dean, athletic director, a curriculum writer, a department chair, and which was an opportunity for me to continue to enjoy just working with my community. And so, why am I here and why am I doing this is because honestly, God wants me to do it, and I believe so, because my passion for the children in this community. Being a mother of two, I have a 9-year-old as well as a 12-year-old, both in Board District 1, and wanting to be able to serve. I ran for this seat about 10 years ago. I finished third at that time. And so I'm back when Marguerite Lamont passed. And it's with great honor that I'm here endorsed by the one and only legendary Dr. George McKenna as the current board member now. And so it brings me great honor to be here amongst you and being the only candidate endorsed by so many within this community: Heather Hutt, Holly Mitchell, Karen Bass, the Times, the Sentinel, the Democratic Party. So it brings me great honor to be here to champion for the students of this community. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thanks for that great introduction. We will get started with your questions. I'd like to start with dealing with equity and education. What specific strategies do you propose to address educational disparities within District 1, ensuring that all students, regardless of their background, have access to high quality education and resources?
Well, definitely working with our board, and currently some of the practices that we know over the past have, we've seen injured many of our students, and now bringing light to our marginalized students by implementing programs that provide tutoring, extracurricular involvement, as well as after school and in school push-in programs, which allows our students to get at the same time opportunities to advance while they're in school. And so that would be one of the strategies to continue to push. And of course, making sure that there's funding within those opportunities for students that are considered those that are not meeting the mark. And especially for our students, as mentioned, you said, making sure that they're equitable, having being that many of our students in foster program currently aren't meeting the mark. And so making sure that those students are getting the services that they need within the school district right now.
Right, right. Thank you for that. The next question will be in regards to curriculum development. How do you intend to involve parents, teachers, and the community in the curriculum development process? And what steps will you take to ensure that the curriculum reflects the diverse needs and perspectives of our students?
Excellent question. So, one of the things within the board is, in this office, is to create advisory boards, advisories that are made up of the community. Because I think the voices of the community, as you mentioned, the parents are very critical to this work. And there's many parents that have done a lot of research in this area that brings upon us uh, situations where we see that there's evidence to be able to promote the students in BD1. And BD1 is a very diverse board district because it is from the west side to the 110 freeway, for those that are not familiar, and goes all the way down to Gardena, all the way to Wilshire. And so to have the voices of each and every demographic within the board district is going to be critical to making that work. And so advisory boards are going to be one of the essential pieces to making sure that those voices are being heard and to be able to implement curriculum that we know has been vested and tested for the diversity of this community.
Right. Okay. And with the increasing awareness of mental health issues among students, what initiatives will you support or implement to promote mental health resources and support systems within our schools?
That is such a fantastic question because right now we're in the month of October where we do focus on mental health, and it being within our district a pillar, making sure that joy and wellness is connected. And a lot of that has to do with our mental health. And working with our PSWs and our PSAs is essential. And having advisory to be able to connect. Those are the vehicles that go literally to our homes and work with our families. And so to be able to work with them one-on-one to see and bring back resource as to what's happening in the homes, what's happening in the schools, but then also to partner with our county facilities. There's so many opportunities, I believe, with the county that we probably haven't utilized as best, that we need to continue to work to partner to make sure that our students and our families are getting resources and ultimately changing the narrative within many of our households and our families, because culturally it has not been known to share what's going on in your home, what's going on with you. And so to change that narrative has to be one at a time, right? It's going to be one-on-one conversations, one-on-one dialogues through our advisory groups to come out and be the voice, to be able to speak with our families and our communities to know the benefits of such counseling, work with the PSW. Those entities are valuable, and showing our community how valuable they are through the research and the one-on-one and the testimonies of those that have gone through said counseling sessions or therapy sessions, which typically wouldn't happen. So strategically working with some of our county-based programs, as well as tapping into our PSWs who are already here and our PSAs.
Great. And then I have one last question for you. What is your plan for improving communication and engagement between the school board, parents, and community? How will you ensure that community voices are heard and considered in the decision-making process?
Excellent question. And so many of our school sites, they do have parent advisory groups already existing. Some of our community schools have community liaisons. And so having a direct connection and an open door policy, I believe, is essential. Having a system in place where situations or concerns come to the board and making sure that there is a resolve and making sure that that is communicated. I think one of the things, because the district is so big, it gets kind of lost in the communication process and kind of drop balls. And we don't want that. I think people's voices are so valuable, and having an open door policy and an ability to be able to be reached. Because oftentimes board members are inundated and they're busy, but that's not an excuse to be able to resolve certain concerns and issues. And so having a system in place where concerns come to the board and making sure that a resolve is remitted back, whether through email, whether through phone call, and making sure that that resolution is done with that family. And then, of course, hosting town halls. I think town hall meetings are an excellent way to get the voices of our communities, as well as be able to hear what's going on within our school district and within the board office.
Yes, thank you for that answer. Thank you for that answer. And thank you for being here. We truly, truly appreciate your input.
Well, thank you for having me again. Appreciate it.
Chair Peters, are we
Awesome.
doing questions from the chat at this time?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Candidate Newbill, I just want to say, go Crenshaw, and here's your question. You have 2 minutes, 2 minutes to answer the question. Black students have been the lowest performing in the district for over 35 plus years. What specific plans do you have to address the crises, because the current plans have not worked?
Well, I do want to share, and I'm going to say go Dons, that currently we do have a plan in place, our Black Student Achievement Plan, which I do believe has been working. I think now it's to continue to hold it into its fidelity. As we just recently last week, we received that our Black students achieved higher than any other subgroup within our district in their SBAC scores, which we do believe is a testament to additional funding, additional support to those students. I do believe that this work has been going on. Dr. McKenna started this with the HEAP program, where he humanized education for our students and for those that had been marginalized. And I think it is to continue to work with those that are doing research in this area to see what is it that we need to continue, and the things that work, continue to forcefully put those items on the forefront and being at the table to discuss those items that are working for our students of color. Because we do see some gains and we don't want to take steps back, but we do want to continue to make those investments in our student population where we do see the growth, and to be able to target to say, the growth is happening because of these investments, whether it's trips, it's curricular, it's push-in tutoring, whether it's after-school opportunities for these students to get enrichment. So those are some of the things that I believe are working and that will continue to work with the investment and us as a collective group working together. I think that is critical for us to not hurt each other and hinder each other in the progress that we do see within our Black students, and to be claim those victories when we see it and continue to capitalize upon that.
Thank you so much. Chair Peters.
Again, we thank you. We thank you, Ms. Newbill, and good luck to you on your candidacy.
Thank you again, ladies, for having me. Appreciate it.
And next, I'm going to try it again. I am looking for Miss Georgia Huretta, LA County Superior Court Judge, seat number 135.
And while we're waiting for her, I do have another question in the chat. Is that okay? And it's for candidate Jones. I see she's still here.
Ms. Huerta is back.
Okay, let me ask this question right quick. Will you have an option to have your meetings virtually in order to reach more of your stakeholders if elected?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the goal in holding these meetings is transparency. I feel like a lot of things that are happening in the city right now, a lot of people don't know about. Our current council member has not been very responsive to the concerns of residents. And so I want as many people as possible to be able to attend meetings, to give their opinion. So if that is happening by allowing people to join virtually, in person, at accessible times. All of those are things that I would be doing if elected.
Thank you, Candidate Jones.
Thank you.
And that's it, Chair Peters, at this time.
Great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see that we have you here now.
Are you speaking to me, Georgia
Miss
Huerta?
Georgia, yes. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we would love to hear from you within 2 minutes. Let us know a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Right now?
Yes, please.
Okay. As you know, my name is Georgia Huerta. I'm candidate for Superior Court Judge, seat 135. Just a little bit about me. I grew up on 104th and Broadway with my mother and my 6 other siblings. I went to Fauché Junior High. I graduated from Manual Senior High School. I attended UCLA for my undergraduate degree. I got a master's degree from USC, and I got my law degree from Western State College in Fullerton, College of Law in Fullerton. Growing up on 104th and Broadway, that's when my desire came to be a lawyer, because I saw the struggles within my community. Not only the struggle dealing with law enforcement, with the lack of respect and mistreatment by them, but also I was growing up during a time when drugs were beginning to run wild on the street, and just a lot of crime. And I just didn't think it was fair for our communities, one, to be tormented by the police, and two, to be living scared, and living in crime. You shouldn't have to live like that. So I decided to become an attorney. I decided to become a deputy district attorney. I've been one for 30 years because I felt as a deputy district attorney, I could help my community the most. I realized that if the deputy district attorney did their job, which was to seek justice, to treat people fairly, then some of the mistreatment that I saw my friends when they were in court would not happen. And I knew I wouldn't do that. I knew I would treat people fairly. I knew what people went through, at least people who look like me. And you have to have compassion. You have to have empathy for people. And really, to tell you the truth, I like people. I had to like people to go to UCLA and sit in a classroom with 1,000 people and still enjoyed it. So, as I said, I went to work for the DA's office. I've tried over 80 cases to verdict, just petty thefts up to special circumstance murders. I've done that for my first 10 years in the office. After that, I became a master calendar deputy, where it's more of an administrative type of job, where it's my job to manage the calendar in the courtroom. So I got to work with judges on understanding how the courtroom must work efficiently and effectively. I did that for many years. I was a filing deputy, and the filing deputy is really the gateway to the community. And I think that's the position I've loved the most, because when law enforcement bring cases to the DA's office to be filed, me, filing deputy like myself, decides whether or not that case should be filed. And so a filing deputy has to be very clear about what they're supposed to be doing. We just can't go along with the police because they want cases filed. We can't file cases because, they may plead later on. That's not the standard. That's not the rule. And you don't do that. So if a case, there are two components. One, you got to make sure that the person they're accusing of the crime actually did the crime. Secondly, you have to make sure all the elements of those crimes are met. You can't say, we'll figure it out later down the road. No, we're not going to figure it out later down the road. And I had quite a few run-ins with 77 detectives when I first started filing. because they felt that I should file them anyway. Well, I didn't work for LAPD. I worked for the DA's office and the people of LA County. So I filed the cases that I felt should be filed and not what they wanted to be filed. As I stated, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. My church is still there. I am trustee on my church. I am the usher board president. So if you ever come to visit us, I will greet you at the door. I am the COVID-19 vaccination coordinator. I am president over our scholarship committee. And there are numerous other ministries that my church is involved in that I'm involved in. I will let you know that I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. My 2 minutes are up.
Yes, they are.
Okay. They are. Okay.
I'll let you
Sorry.
finish your sentence.
No, I just wanted to let you know I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. I was endorsed by the Los Angeles County Democratic Party. I've been rated well qualified. I'm a member of LawPAC. I'm a member of the National Women's Political Conference, and I've been endorsed by numerous other Democratic parties.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we will dive right into our questions, okay? So question number one. If you became aware of an unethical conduct on the part of a trial advocate in a case in which you were presiding, how would you handle it? Do you believe judges should be required to report attorney misconduct? You're on mute.
Yeah, unmute yourself.
Unmute one more time. There we are.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, first of all, as a judge, you guys already know that judges don't take sides. You know, you don't put your finger on the scale for one side or another. That's not your job. Your job is to make sure that all the rules are followed and that everyone gets a fair chance. That's the primary purpose of a judge. If I become aware of what I believe is unethical conduct by one of the parties, first of all, I have to make sure it's not my personal opinion, because my personal opinion does not count. I have to look at the law and see whether or not their actions is a violation of the law. Because sometimes over the years, I've ran into some attorneys and they're very offensive to me personally, but they're within the bounds of the law. So they can be offensive as long as they're within the bounds of the law. And if they are, no matter whether it personally insults me or not, that's not relevant. What's relevant is whether or not they're doing what's correct. If they are outside the bounds of the law, then I do think as a magistrate, you can report them because you're not using your personal opinion about why they're outside the law. You can support it by cases and facts. And I believe as long as you can do that, then you can say something.
Great. Next is, what are your views on whether the court as a whole deals effectively with racial and gender bias?
Well, you know, that's why we need a diverse bench. Years. And I've had some judges that did not know me think that I'm a public defender because I'm Black. It didn't cross their mind that I could be the deputy district attorney. They think I'm the public defender. I've seen where we have people of color that come into the courtroom and the judge sometimes, not all the time, are just out of touch with the community that they serve. Some of them don't understand when an individual say, I know you asked me to be here at 8:30, Your Honor, but I didn't have money for bus fare. They'll look at them like, everybody has money for bus fare. Well, no, everybody don't. And if you never lived or had an association with people who may not be financially secure like you, then you see it as, oh, that person is just lazy. They didn't get up early enough in the morning to get to court on time. So I think to deal with that, because as long as we live, there will be some biases, some racial biases, gender biases, because we're all human and we're not perfect. But we have to be aware that we have those biases and deal with those biases instead of thinking, oh, well, I'm okay. Well, you may not be okay. And since I've been personally affected by it more than one time, I think I am more acutely aware of that and more acutely aware that we need to look beyond what we see with our eyes when we're dealing with people and deal with what the issue is at hand.
Understandable. Thank you. Thank you. One last question for you. You mentioned living in South LA. And I know there's a lot of crime going on there. The crime rates are high. So what are the major issues involved in the debate regarding gun control and as it relates to
Well, as it would relate to me if I'm sitting on the bench as a judge?
as a
Or
judge?
how do I think as a judge? I spent about 15 years in Compton off and on as a deputy district attorney. And there were two types of crimes that I paid special attention to. One, DUI, driving under the influence. Because when you drive under the influence, not only do you can hurt yourself, you can hurt other people as well. And I took those cases very seriously. Other case I took very seriously was possession of firearms. Myself as a judge, sitting aside my personal feelings, my feeling as a judge is that there need to be firmer gun judges need to handle that area really carefully. Because as a DA, I've seen young people who have been in possession of a firearm get in an argument with somebody and shoot them. When they calm down, they realize, oh my God, I've hurt someone. I'm going to go to jail. But maybe if that young person didn't have that gun in the first place, he would not or she would not have committed that crime. So I think that as a judge, I would take gun cases very seriously. I think there's a difference between a person who legally owns a gun and in possession of that gun. That's different to me than someone who has a gun that's not registered to them, that don't belong to them, and they're in possession of it. Because I think if a person goes through the trouble of actually buying a gun, registering a gun, I think they understand the power that that particular gun have in their hands. So I look at them differently as opposed to someone who would not. And I've done that as a DA, and I'm quite sure in the law, I don't necessarily believe my position would get any lighter. I just think that you have to be very careful when weapons are involved and who possessed those weapons and how they became in possession of those weapons.
Great. Thank you for your answers. I will now turn it over to Ms. Latanya Nelson. Are there any questions in the chat?
Yes, I do have one. What factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants? What do you believe is the primary consideration of this? I'll say it again. You have 2 minutes to answer. What factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants? What do you believe is the primary consideration?
I think the primary consideration for setting bail is whether or not the person is a danger to society. I think one of the other factors you should take in account be punished because they cannot make bail. So if you have somebody who went in, and please, I'm not trying to negate any particular crime, but we still have to look at the person, we have to look at the crime, and we have to look at the situation in order to set bail. We can just say everybody gets $50,000 bail, but that's not equitable because some people can pay $50,000 or pay 10% to $5,000, but there are some people who cannot do that. So I, at least as a deputy district attorney, what I did, even though we had our bail schedules, if any of you are attorneys and you're in the criminal court, you know that the DA recommendation carries a lot of weight with the judge sometimes, depending on what that judge is, who that judge is, and the relationship, who shoplift, and they stole a blouse that costs $30 and the bill is $20,000. I don't think it's fair that that person has to sit in jail because they can't make a $2,000 bail. It's not fair. It's punishing people who are not economically able to pay bail. So I think we have to be very careful. So what I did and what I will do is that I'll look at the nature of the crime. Petty theft is different than murder. I would look at not only that, I would look at, is society on no bail or reduced bail or on their own recognizances? I would consider that. And then also I would consider to some extent, but not as much as the first two, is what kind of criminal history they have. Sometimes we have people with a criminal history of 10 petty thefts, but that still doesn't equate out to putting someone in jail, having them sit there because they cannot make a $10,000 bail. So I think it's a danger to society, the nature of the offense, and maybe the criminal record of the person that I'm dealing with.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Horta, and good luck with your candidacy. Thank you, Chair Peter.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you so much for joining us. Are there any
Thank you
other
for having
speakers
me.
in our room? Definitely. At this time, are there any other speakers in our room?
No, we're good, I think.
Okay.
I think our holding room is clear.
Holding room is clear. I think at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Los Angeles chapter, Dr. Carmen Downs.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't believe how fast almost 2 hours went. Just to go back or re-emphasize the purpose of this evening, the Coalition of 100 Black Women Los Angeles chapter is truly focused on helping our community to inform their votes. So what our goal was this evening was to really have all of our listeners hear from the candidates in a variety of different seats, what their platform, what their mission is, a little bit about them to help you, the voter, make your decision. I want to sincerely thank our candidates. I know they have a very, very busy schedule with 12 days left in our election. So thank you so much. A very special thank you to our Public Policy Committee, our co-chairs, Twyla Peters and Faber Croft, and our entire Public Policy Committee. I want to encourage any of our listeners, as you may recall, I gave a little bit of a call of action. Please spread the word of what you learned about our candidates' platform and what they would like to do for our communities. I plugged into the chat our website where you can gain more information on not only our chapter, but how you too can become a member. Or if you have any questions on our upcoming fundraiser or even joining, I've also plugged in our email. So thank you again for joining us, everyone. We do plan to place this full recording on our YouTube channel, so we will make sure to post the link on our site. Thank you, everyone, and have an awesome evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.